Hello everyone, welcome to our first Fireside Chat. We're in our headquarters in sunny Brisbane, Queensland, around our fireplace. We very rarely have a need to light fires inside houses in Queensland, but we thought we'd find a use for it, hence the name of the show. My name is Nick Illich. I'm a co-founder and director at Flint. We're a small boutique consultancy that specialises in business improvement, leadership coaching, strategy and adaptive delivery. I'm joined here today by my partner in crime, Dan Spittler.
Yeah, g'day everybody, and welcome to this, our first YouTube video. Obviously we're in rapidly changing times, and as business owners, Nick and I have had to adapt our thinking and our strategy. And I guess really the purpose of today is to encourage others to do the same. More critically than ever, we also recognise the need for strong and effective leadership to steer through these unprecedented times. As part of our adaptive strategy, Nick and I decided to create this YouTube channel in order for us to share our knowledge and experience, for us to be able to reach out to others and offer support, but also to get other people's comments and feedback so that we can also grow and learn through this situation as well.
How this all came about for our first video is, like everyone on the planet, we've been closely watching the unfold of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a small business ourselves, we've definitely noticed an impact on our way of working, given that we rely on a lot of face-to-face workshopping and contact for our job, and we've had to rethink that. These times are definitely unprecedented, as Dan said. What we've always done is not necessarily going to work. There's a lot of new patterns, new trends. It's very hard to predict what is going to happen the next day, let alone the next week and the next month. So today is about how we've applied two things. One, adaptive strategy thinking around what we can do in our business to respond. And two, how adaptive leadership has a very key role to play in supporting that execution of the strategy. We wanted to share our learning and our thinking around that, and hopefully give you some awareness to help in the current situation that you're in. As Dan mentioned, we're very passionate about working with businesses, particularly those that have a clear purpose and a why behind what they're doing. And today is about what we can do to be proactive and intentional in the complex environment that we're in.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I guess, given this unique situation, we've seen businesses react in a number of different ways. And it's on a continuum. We've seen some businesses decide to stick their head in the sand and just trust that all of this will blow over. Clearly it's not going to blow over, and it's redefining the way business is done. We've seen others react the way that they've always reacted, go back to the tried and true, trusted way that they've always responded. In this particular case, again, taking that knowledge and experience forward will be important, but the complexity of this situation requires more than that in our view. Where we've also seen some businesses be really adaptive, proactive, and responding really well to the changes that are happening every day. And I guess that's really what we're trying to position and sort of guide other businesses to consider and do.
Mm-hmm. So now more than ever, I think, as leaders and part of a company, we need to take responsibility and ownership for driving the change or the pivot around what it is we need to be doing differently to obviously achieve the vision. And I guess as a result of this, there are going to be a lot of varied outcomes for businesses. Some aren't going to make it at the end of the day. Some will, but they're going to do it at the cost of others or by damaging the future earning potential of their company. Think cutting staff, disenfranchising their suppliers and stakeholders, not holding up to commitments made to customers. That comes with future cost for that short-term benefit. Some will make it through with a clear conscience, so they'll engage their people, they'll make decisions that are in line with what they need to be doing, they'll pivot and change their model. But then there'll be those that radically change and adapt their way of working to create new value and find ways to leverage their capability, their people, their resources in new avenues that are going to be needed in the environment that we're in. And those are going to be quite interesting to watch unfold as we keep progressing. There are two things that we believe are going to underpin the outcome. One is adaptive strategy, and two is around adaptive leadership. And we use the word adaptive to emphasize the fact that in this environment, things need to change very quickly. And so we're emphasizing the adaptive nature of that. I'll start with a bit of a background on strategy, and then Dan will dive into leadership. When we talk about strategy, what we mean basically is understanding critically the problems deeply that you as a business are facing in light of where you ultimately want to be in terms of your vision. So it's about crafting the journey between where you are and ultimately where you want to be as a business. In order for a strategy to be successful, there's a few key drivers that sit behind it. Number one, you need a clear vision. Without a guiding light or a North Star or a flag on a hill that you're working towards, you're making decisions reactively in the current known, not towards a bigger picture or an outcome for the business. Two, you need a compass, a very strong internal compass as a business. Otherwise, you'll make decisions in light of that flag on the hill, but leave you with a bad conscience or potentially destroy who you are as a business. Right? And a compass is basically your purpose. So what is your reason for being? What is your why? Your values? What do you stand by? What will you not overrule or violate in terms of values of your business? And three, what are those guiding clear principles that inform and influence your behavior? Without those things, you'll make decisions in light of short-term benefit and potentially destroy that value. Three, you need to be able to implement strategy quickly and efficiently and effectively with your people. All right? We don't have time for a traditional approach, which is what Dan is going to talk about shortly. And four, we have to be able to change it quickly and effectively in response to changes in the environment. If it can't pivot, then what we're doing is outdated in light of what's going on in the environment.
Yeah. As Nick sort of alluded, as you can tell, probably most likely by the colour of my hair as well, a traditional approach is what I was schooled in and what I've practiced throughout most of my working career. Typically, it's always been top-down. It's been linear. There's certainly bureaucratic ego involved, but most importantly, it's probably complex and detailed. Things are changing so rapidly in this environment that yes, you can take that knowledge and experience forward, but it's not enough because by the time you actually implement a traditional strategy, it's outdated. And when I say implement, even identify, let alone implement. So the environment is changing too rapidly for just a traditional approach to work. So we need to change.
So an alternate school of thought is adaptive strategy, and it has the same, I'd say, pillars and content of traditional top-down linear strategy, but it emphasizes a few things far more heavily. The first thing is it's light, it's nimble, and it's pragmatic in the way that it sets that strategic direction. It's more about providing clear line of sight, and then it's about empowering your people, getting out of their way and letting them come up with the road and the actions that they need to implement to get to those objectives that you've set. It's not a forced top-down with feedback, it's bottom-up driven alignment around where we need to be. Three, there needs to be strong feedback fostered in communication at every single level of the business. And that needs to be happening daily, and there need to be measures and monitoring in place to work out what's working and what's not, and whether there are emerging patterns that we need to respond to quite quickly. And then ultimately it's having the courage to change. So being willing and open to change when you need to, and not sticking the head in the sand, as Dan said, when the going gets tough and assuming things will be okay. Yep. And none of that works without having the right mindset in your leadership team that's driving that forward for the business.
Yeah, as you said, Nick, probably the most familiar that most organisations are in and around adaptive strategy thinking is actually a crisis management type environment. But obviously that's the worst case scenario that you want to be in. But as you alluded to me, one of the principal, having an adaptive strategy is one thing, being able to have effective adaptive leadership is another. We all know the impact of leadership and how important it is to creating the right results for the people in the organisation and organisations themselves. And we know that good leaders traditionally have the ability to park their ego and to acknowledge that they don't know what they don't know. They also avoid believing, or I guess the leadership trap of believing that it's their responsibility to solve the problem. And they do engage in that broader business sense and beyond their own boundaries to find solutions to the problem. They will always they maintain strong and caring relationships and connection with their people, because people are vulnerable in this situation. Without doubt, the more certainty leaders can provide their people, the better. And the best and most effective way to do that is through effective communication and keeping those channels open and regularly communicating both up and down. Because obviously in uncertain times, you only create panic in the absence of good communication. Now, we acknowledge that good leadership is always better than poor leadership. But in this environment, again, our belief is that good leaders still need to be able to add something, which is that adaptive thinking to their approach. To me, an adaptive leader will recognise that no problem is the same. There are all types of problems that we see, from simple to complicated to complex, right through to chaotic. So a good adaptive leader recognises that no one solution will fit every type of problem, so they adjust their response accordingly. Mm-hmm. What they'll also do is take a helicopter view and encourage their people to do the same. And by helicopter view, I mean, when you're in the forest, you can't see anything beyond the trees in front of you. You can't see possibility beyond what's there. Adaptive leaders take that helicopter view to be able to see the holistic landscape and encourage their people to do the same. Because in the end, if we only see things through the lens that we always see it, we won't see possibility beyond that. The other thing I think adaptive leaders are really good at is that they're prepared to experiment, particularly in this dynamic environment. They see 1% probability as 100% possibility in terms of new ways to adjust what's happening. They're agile and adaptive in their own thinking, and they're always constantly challenging and changing their approach, but not in a chaotic way, in a well-considered response, which is a different skill again. And they also promote both their internal and external networks with the realisation that it's not their problem alone to solve. And I think in this environment, it comes back to teamwork. Adaptive leaders respect and acknowledge that the effectiveness in their internal teams is what will guide their business and their people through this, but also beyond their business, as you alluded to before, right through the entire supply chain. If people collectively work together, more businesses will get through this situation.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, though, to be aware of is that adaptive leadership is a skill. And if it's not familiar, it needs to be practiced and or coached. And I guess that's where we're saying it's not the time to pretend that you know. Awareness of what to do is one thing. The ability to do it is the only thing that's truly going to change and add value. So that's what we're encouraging, I guess, in this particular case.
And Dan started to allude to this already, but I guess the challenge is knowing where to get started as a leader in your company at this particular point in time. What we believe is usually a good starting point is beginning with principles. So some clear guiding rules or principles that help to start informing the kind of behaviour that is going to be promoting more of an adaptive response and consideration of your business. And we think there are 5 key ones that are a good start. The first one, as we've alluded to, is being transparent. That's not just with your leadership team, that's with your people, contractors, your suppliers, your stakeholders, your lawyers, your accountants. Being transparent and open creates possibility for them to help into that space and provide insight that you weren't aware of. 2, optimize for the long term over the short term. It's very easy to get lost in the noise of what's going on now. It's certainly a challenge for us, and we have to keep pulling ourselves back to the vision of where we want to be and how we can make decisions on this stepping stone to ultimately get to that vision down the track. 3, that requires us to act, not react to the situations we're facing. By acting, we're taking a considered response based on our values, our purpose, and our vision to navigate the problems that we're facing, but in light of where we want to be and who we want to be as a business. 4, we need to challenge our assumptions in getting there. More often than not, the things that we hold to be true or assume to be true constrain a lot of possibility around the options that present themselves to us. So we often endorse teams getting together and listing out all of the assumptions we're making currently as a business and which things have we validated and which things are untrue. Because more often than not, they lead to then new solutions that weren't seen before and really challenge the status quo. And finally, include your people in all aspects of what's going on. That's not just your staff, that's your suppliers, again, your contractors, your third parties. Involve them in solving the problems, because that's where the creativity and the engagement of your people comes to light. Leaders often feel the responsibility of having to come up with the solution that will save the day or the company, but that's not the case. And they're fooling themselves if they think they have to. So engage your staff and people and everyone in your network and come up with creative ways to solve the problems and leverage the capability of the team. Beyond that, obviously, we've been doing quite a bit of work ourselves to pivot our business and adapt the services that we offer. For one, we've gone virtual fully with all the different services we have, hence our video here today. Two, we've realigned all of our services around what we think is going to add the most value to clients in the current environment that they're in now. And those things are firstly adaptive leadership coaching, so working with leaders to help them navigate the environment and support their business. Two, adaptive strategy creation and implementation, so giving you support in crafting a lightweight strategy and how to implement it into your day-to-day operations. And then three, how to solve problems that you encounter, so giving you a structured approach to effectively and quickly work through solving the challenges you're facing. And finally, adaptive delivery coaching. So it's one thing to have a vision, it's one thing to have a determined leadership team that's willing to solve problems, but you have to be able to execute quickly and gain feedback and challenge and adapt your way of delivery quickly, and that's where our delivery coaching comes in. So all of these are now tailored to the environment we're in. We've got links below the video where you can go and find out a little bit more on our website about what we do. Alternatively, drop a comment or please get in touch via the contact details that we've got below as well. We'd love to have a chat.
In closing, I guess, probably most importantly, when we distill all of the need as business leaders to deal with this unprecedented event, nothing's more important than people's safety. So I guess we wish and send our best wishes to you for your ongoing safety and well-being, and for those of your families and your teams. As we said, play it safe, because safety is the only thing all of us have got when all of this passes. We obviously wish you every success through these uncharted times, and we're here to support and help you where we can, so please do reach out. Yep. We hold the firm belief that it's by working together and supporting each other through this that we will get through this, and that's the most effective way. So thank you, and best wishes for ongoing safety.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining our first Fireside Chat. We look forward to hearing from you and speaking soon. All the best. Take care.
Thank you.